Hi, everyone. This is Rebecca at Closeo, bringing you our interview series featuring women in sales, where we find out how they thrive and grow both professionally and personally. Today, I am joined by Lauren LaForge, business coach and professional sales trainer at Southwestern Consulting. So a little bit about Lauren. As a college student, she was a top producer and recruiter at Southwestern Advantage, a division of Southwestern, selling books and software door to door, finishing top 5 out of 3,000 salespeople for all 4 summers. At 23 years old, she founded and sold Yep Camps, which generated more than $500,000 in business in just 3 months out of the year, and it became the #1 host family placement program in California. She also started and sold Hostel Hopper, a shuttle service for travelers staying in hostels in Southern California. And guys, I am so excited to have Lauren here today because not only is she a coach to sales organizations around the world, she is actually my sales coach. And we started working together just over 2 months ago. I've loved every minute since of working with you, Lauren. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm super excited. I love working with you, and I was so honored when you asked me to do this interview. So let's do it.
Woo! Okay, let's rock it. So one of the things that I love and value about you as my coach, but also as a person, is you're so uplifting and you have a radiant personality. And when I first connected with you, I felt like it was actually coming from a really genuine place and not just a persona. Because I went to business school and, I'm around like other business people and sometimes we put on personas. But when I spoke to you, that vibe was just so true and authentic. And that inkling of mine was kind of validated when we first started our coaching journey together. And you told me, like, if there's one thing I should know about our coaching journey together is that I've got you, the undisputed spirit and cheer champ, in my corner backing me up. So tell us all about the background of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do start usually when it's with a new client, filling them in that I grew up in this small town in the middle of California. And so you kind of played every sport there was to play. So I was on every team, but I wasn't that good at any of them. I typically won the Spirit Award. So since I was a kid, cheering people on, being the bench warmer who just, kept people going, that was kind of my organic gift to the world. And now it's so fun being able to do that with salespeople, sales leaders, entrepreneurs, helping them get out of their own way and hit their goals and faith in what they can hit. So yeah, that to me is it's a gift I've had as a kid.
Yeah, it is a gift, and you're so blessed, and the people around you are super blessed to have you in their lives. I wanted to ask you, so coming out of school, you worked at Southwestern Advantage, and you started and sold 2 businesses. Those 2 businesses, Yep Camps and Hostel Hopper. Why did you pursue those ventures?
Yeah, it's the classic, right? You do what you love, and it's been fascinating observing kind of what also were the pitfalls of each of those businesses for me personally, and recognize it was because I moved into a part, being an entrepreneur, you have to put on every single hat. And so I ended up moving into kind of more admin roles and realizing that actually isn't my highest talent. And so I had to hire people to do the roles of what is not my talent. And so how we got into each of those, the first one with Yep Camps, I'd studied to be a teacher in college. And I love to travel. I actually met my husband at a hostel in South America when I was 23, and he was the souvenir of my trip that I brought home with me. And so we together, our big joke was that we're Pinky and the Brain. So he's more like the brain. He thinks of these ideas, and I'm the one who says, sure, we can do that. And
Yeah.
so our first business, we started, I had taught at an English school, and we ran a big summer camp for them out in Florida. And one of the teachers said, I'd love to have a camp like this in California. And we said, sure, let's do it. So of course we sent the smart email going, well, we formed our business and we're having this camp next summer. Do you want to come? And, we laughed. We actually wrote that email from South America. We were living down in his country then. And so it was just really organic how it started. So, but both businesses, both Hostel Hopper and Yep Camps, were started because we love to travel and we love to hang out with internationals. So that's kind of, I guess, the theme. And teaching education has always been something that's passionate to me. So the camps was teaching American culture and English. The hostel
Mhm.
hopper was teaching people about Southern California and where they were going. And then now I'm teaching sales and business. So
Right.
yeah, kind of ironic. So they all kind of have a similar vein.
And what would you say you learned from going out on your own at quite a young age? And, one of my guests, Sarah Hasselkorn, who's the head of sales operations at MakeSpace, she was kind of talking about how she almost experienced so much at such a young age, because it's like you start a business and then you go through running the business and then you shut it down. For you, kind of the same thing, but selling them, and you've done that twice.
A big part of it, I think some of us are natural born leaders. And so I definitely had like a pocket of 3 months where I tried to work retail and at Patagonia here in California. And it was just painful to me. I was like, wait, I have to ask permission to go to the bathroom. Like, this is
Yeah.
insane. So that was I remember going one time 1 minute late to a meeting, their office meeting, and they had the door was locked. And so I had to knock on it and wait and to break up the meeting. Everyone was watching me. And I remember those moments of employee humiliation. And I felt so belittled. And it made me so mad, because I knew that I knew I had so much more in me than just folding clothes all day long. And so working retail to me was just absolute torture. I worked at a restaurant being a waitress, and even at a coffee shop in college. And the huge jokes always were that I would be the barista who would take someone's order. Then I just want to hear about their lives. I'd ask them questions.
Yeah.
Then I'd forget what they ordered. I'd forget how to make it, And so I had all these realizing that my talent was speaking, and that it was my talent was not folding clothes or making lattes. And so those were kind of my experiences in being an employee. And I felt limited. I felt like I was in that box going like, wait a minute, like there's more that I can give. And so that's really, I feel like I became an entrepreneur out of personal necessity. So kind of just needing to have a place where I wasn't micromanaged. I didn't feel belittled. I got to really spread my wings and create whatever I wanted to create. I could fix whatever I thought was wrong. I could streamline things that I thought we could do them better. So that part I just loved. I still love hiring and handpicking a team, knowing that you can choose all the people you want to work with. And if you don't like one, or if they don't work that well, you can let them go and hire someone else. Just having that control and that power of your environment. With the hostel hopper, our office was our sailboat. So in Marina del Rey, we have a sailboat. So that's where we would work from. And my office manager would come and we'd work from the sailboat together. And she met a guy on another sailboat. So she'd work from her boat. I'd work from mine. And it was just this huge, kind of doing things our way. And that I really loved. And so then from both of them, how they grew, I think, is just being an overachiever, being an overachiever and a perfectionist. And also always having that personality of wanting things to grow. Like, why not? Like, more people come along. And so I think building authentic relationships along the way. So always the first year is that growth year for you. And then the next year, if you treat people well, you have a good product and service, they spread the word for you. And so things start to just authentically grow. And I always see this analogy of whenever you're building a business, you're pushing a boulder up a hill and you're just pushing. And once it gets to the top of that hill, that boulder actually starts to roll after you. And all of a sudden you're like, what? If you don't have systems in place and good people to support you, your business can eat you alive. And so we went through all those phases. And I think most people do in business. A book I'd recommend for people that I read kind of at the tail end of our second business was called The E-Myth Revisited. So if someone does have a small business that they feel like it's kind of coming after them, it talks about your different stages in your business. So anyways, those are things that we did as far as kind of what life looked like and why we got into it. It was just that, to have no limits and create the kind of life that we wanted. And my joke always was that when things got big and they were working really well, I just would kind of get bored. Like I needed a new challenge, I needed something new. And so we kind of authentically sold each business as the opportunity came up. And So yeah.
When I
So
look at your career, I feel like so much of it has involved helping others and facilitating a really important journey in their life. After all, you ran a shuttle company that literally transported people during
yes.
their travels. So, what has helping others sort of taught you about life, about business, and about, of course, sales?
Ooh, okay. Life, business, and sales. Um, yeah, so life, I mean, just that whole analogy, like if you can dream it, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. And, just that idea of your reality is whatever you decide it's going to be. Um, I remember flying in, I wanted a business that I could run, I could travel and still run. And so, one of with the shuttle business, we had GPS. I always say it's pre-Uber, so all of our shuttle stuff now Uber has. We're like, of course, shuttles have GPS tracking, but then it wasn't quite what we did. And so, but we'd go and live and travel in South America or in Bali, and we had GPS trackers on our phones for all the vehicles, and we'd have, I had a certain hour that I was still, involved in the business, and the phone calls would, go to my phone, just using technology, realizing you can be anywhere in the world. So if you want a mobile business and you want to be like location free, you can. You
Mm-hmm.
just decide that you want to and build the business around that. We started the shuttle business because we wanted to live in LA. We thought it'd be so cool. So our way to do it was to start a business in LA. So thinking through proactively, I guess, in learning in life is that whatever the version of life that you want, like, go for it, do it. My husband, and so he's an ex-soccer player, and he's always wanted to become an agent and a coach, or an agent and a scout for soccer. So we're actually moving.
Wow.
I haven't told you yet, Rebecca. We're moving to Spain for the
No.
summer. Yeah, and so, but my work and what I do can all be done from abroad, and that's the lifestyle I wanted to build for myself. So that was one thing about life, I guess, that I learned is you can create anything you want. About business, just that, I guess that whole thing of like, you put in your dues, like you make every mistake so that then you can find better solutions. And I guess I'm grateful that I made them all when I was young. I
Mm.
decided that all the, ups and downs and money we made, money we lost, all the stuff that goes through business, it was kind of like, my MBA program, and it was, the school of hard knocks. And so I'm so grateful for all the stuff that I learned. So now here I am. Still, I feel like I'm very young in a consulting career. Yet I have, I was commission-based sales since I was 18. And so I've got all of that that taught me so many lessons. So I guess lessons about business are just, you have to fail. You have to fail and fail and fail, and then you'll learn from all those mistakes. Having mentors are fantastic. Having coaches, people who can guide you, reading a lot of books. I'm a big consumer of blogs. I think there's a lot of good knowledge. So whatever you can be learning to help you avoid some of the pitfalls is great, but don't be afraid not to do it because of a possible pitfall. I think we doubt ourselves sometimes too much. And so just going into it, obviously bring, wise people along the way can help us. And what was the third one? You said life, business, and sales. And
Sales.
yeah, so the biggest thing, and this is, I think, true in all sales, whatever you are selling, is relationships are king, and follow-up is king, and being referrals, and like I said, letting people become your biggest cheerleaders because of how you treat them, because of how great your product and service is. That will help duplicate your business more than wherever your feet can travel. You have to learn how to utilize others. And so finding the niche part of your business of who the exact ideal client is for you. We call them our zebras. So knowing who your zebra is, and then really how we can get introductions to other people who are just like that. Another good book I recommend is called The Pumpkin Plan. It's by Mike. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name. You can look it up, but it's all about that, finding those ideal clients and how we can duplicate them. So so that in all three businesses, finding our niche and then letting them sell us for us is how we would just kind of double every year.
Tell us about self-doubt, because I feel like there's this concept of kind of getting in your own head of, in sales and in business and going after those things. Have you had moments like that? How have you picked yourself up after, those moments and just going after it and taking the leap?
Absolutely. Um, sometimes I would live in such a state of, especially when we were doing our camps, and we'd have, three locations of camps going on: New York, LA, Santa Barbara, San Diego, and, just having thousands of kids that were under our care. Those moments of panic, come, and anxiety. And there's a lot that's all on your shoulders. Sleep, not sleeping much, your nutrition taking a hit. I used to always want to have just an IV I could put in me so I could consume nutrients, but I could keep going. Like, just that intense, like, here we go kind of momentum.
Yeah.
So self-doubt, I feel like, comes always before. Self-doubt is in the quiet moment when you're before you launch everything, or before that first day happens, or sometimes it creeps in the morning. Even this week, I have some huge presentations. I'm doing a little bit of a road show with a financial planning firm. And so in the morning, I wake up with the self-doubt of like, who's going to be there? What are they going to think, right, of you? All that kind of stuff. And so I think oftentimes when it's something new and we haven't done it yet, we get to tell ourselves all the reasons why we probably won't be able to do it. And all the reasons why we could fail or look stupid or disappoint people or disappoint ourselves. And so I've at least found for me different practices. One is journaling. I mean, just journaling is my way of talking to myself. And there's a book called The Power of Now, if you've read that.
Yeah.
Just those two voices. And so I often try to utilize my second voice to talk to myself into, like, talking out those fears or the hesitation, and then speaking that, cheering myself on and speaking truth into what I'm running towards. So the journaling is a huge thing for me. Of course, affirmations is a huge thing. Having I like to listen to recordings if I like doing meditation or having exercise, or just kind of in that quiet time before you start. And then I feel like once the ball starts rolling, so once you're into whatever that business is, when you're in the motion of it, we say action cures fear. So oftentimes that doing it, like even for you, Rebecca, when you're on a call for Close.io, once you're doing that demo, you're in the zone. The self-doubt, the fear flows away because you're in action. And so I guess all that's to say is try to get yourself into action as soon as possible. Even if it's the first step, which might be, picking up the phone and calling a prospect, or going to a meeting, go to a networking event, whatever that first next step is to start your business or to get clients for your business. Action always cures fear. And so I think that is a huge way to face kind of punch self-doubt in the face, is just start getting to action.
Yeah, I love what you said about just acknowledging that, like, oh, this is just me before I take the first step, and then once I take the first step, there's nothing stopping me. And you actually have a great post on your blog about how to lay out a plan and kind of do the next thing. And you kind of talk about how a lot of people set big goals and they get overwhelmed, but what you basically do is figure out the next best thing. Decide on what it is, lay out a plan, and then execute on it. We're going to link to that in the description box below. So you've kind of, I feel, been like an early adopter of the remote life.
I've been an adopter of remote life through probably for the last 12 years. And so kind of through each different business, figuring out how to do it. So obviously good technology is lovely. So, tools like Evernote to make sure that you have access to all your important forms that you need. Google Drive, best, thank you, Google, best creation ever. For just, having it be where, with our shuttle business, everything was based in Google Drive, was how we created people's, time cards, you name it. We were very creative in using different formats. Obviously technology, so CRM, so like Close.io, fantastic. Close.io, I'm a big proponent of you guys, because it is great how you guys, you have phones that people can call, woohoo! So if you need to do prospecting, you can do it from abroad. Obviously a big part of it is being a master of your time management. And so being really intentional. I remember 2 years ago going to Carnival in Brazil, right? So here I was, and I knew I wanted a week in Rio to just enjoy. I got to, dance a part of the Sambodro with the whole outfit on, and then we went to different shows, different parties. And so, but I knew I wanted that time free for myself. When you're your own boss, sometimes you can work 7 days a week, 14 hours a day without even blinking an eye, because it's your baby, and you kind of are a hard time putting a stop button on it. And so just be really intentional to schedule your day. So I knew I wanted 6 days free to fully enjoy Carnival. And so I was intentional in working, 3 solid days before and 3 solid days after, still in very cool locations, making sure I always like to book Airbnbs that like have a hammock I can work from, or, I'm just intentional to know I like a good view. It's kind of my gift to myself, even if it's a working day while I'm on a trip. So that's a big part of what I do. I remember working from Cambodia, and our big jokes. I don't always tell my clients where I am, and so one client shares these, roosters in the background, and she's from Michigan, and she said, "I thought you lived in LA. What are the roosters?" And here it is, like 5 a.m. in Cambodia, and I said, "Oh, I'm on a ranch, today," but I didn't quite explain to her that I was in Cambodia, at 5 a.m. So there's a part of I think I live a bit under the radar of just knowing I can be responsible to get what I need to get done, and just setting up systems always. Another obviously easy recommendation is always get a local SIM card. Never rely on the Wi-Fi network of a country, and so or of a hotel or an Airbnb.
Yeah.
And so it's the first thing. And then I have 2 phones. So I have my phone with my US number that people can call and text me on. And then I have an old iPhone that I use, that I put my SIM card into, and that's my Wi-Fi connection. So I do a hotspot on it to my computer, and then I call through Skype, or you could do Zoom or any of those. And so it's super easy, and it's usually 4G. And I've, worked from rental cars on the sand dunes of, Uruguay, and it's no big deal. And so you can, I feel like if it's something you want, like, absolutely, there's so much technology around us to support us in remote life. And I also, sometimes as entrepreneurs, we kind of slip into this thing of thinking like, oh, I work on my own schedule. I can just work from 11 to 3. I'll be fine. And you're cheating yourself when you do that. I think it's really important that we, as kind of business owners, or if someone's an independent contractor, I think it's really important that you do put an 8-hour work schedule in your day, and be firm with yourself, because you're only cheating yourself if you're not kind of being clear on what you can accomplish in a day. And so obviously I take it back. If of course your intention is you want to improve in yoga, I guess the idea is recognizing that sometimes when we're just our own boss, we can cut it's like when you're running and you end up like kind of skipping and cutting corners. Mm-hmm. And so just being intentional to think like, if I was in a real job, I would be sitting at this desk, and I would make myself sit for 2 more hours to finish this post, or to make these, 2 hours of phone calls. And so you kind of have to be firm to yourself as if someone was watching. And if you aren't firm with yourself naturally, think of who you would hold you accountable. So maybe it's your grandmother, maybe it's an old boss that, had the fear of God in you, or someone maybe in your organization if you work remotely, but within your organization. I just think it's important for us not to cut corners on ourselves. We're just cheating ourselves from our goals. So that's where schedule comes in, is the fact of schedule out your whole day. I mean, I have lunch scheduled, I have, email time scheduled, so that I don't accidentally mix it all together. Pre-plan it. So try on Sunday to plan your whole schedule out for the week. So when you're in the moment, when you wake up that day, you don't have to think, what am I doing today, or how am I going to do it? You've already blocked all that time out. So if you know that like a to-do list time is a big part, then put your to-do list time in your calendar. But yeah, doing it when you're logical, so you don't cut corners when you're emotional or work too long. Like force yourself. They say water expands by the size of the glass, the jar you put it in. And so being really intentional, if you are a overworker, putting those time limits, you actually have to sprint to try to get your project done rather than taking all day to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I have a question for you, because Stelly often says that the difference between good and great salespeople is consistency. Consistency is king. It's like, first you got to get to the top of your game, and then you have to stay there. And that's, those are 2 different places in your journey.
I think one part of consistency, the same thing, being logical versus emotional in the moment, is really reverse engineering your goals. And so I know that, Rebecca, we've been doing this specific thing with you recently. So you think through, what do I want to accomplish? How much do I want to make? Okay, well, from that, how many people do I need to sell? And from that, how many people do I need to talk to? So knowing what all of your ratios are, how many do I need to meet with? How many do I need to talk to? How many do I need to call? And we go back all the way to simply finding out how many people we need to call. So how many dials do you have to make? When I was selling books door to door, it was how many doors did you need to knock on, right? Getting back to the part you could control. You can't control people buying. You can't control their emotions that day. You can't control the state of their business and if they need your product and service. But you can control talking to enough people. And once you know your ratios, the ratios always work out. It's crazy, it's magical, and they say sales is a numbers game, and it's absolutely true. If you play the numbers, then the ratios will work out. And so I think it's really important for people to think through in their business and do that reverse engineering. If they haven't ever taken track of anything, then go ahead and you can start with even a good old, like a piece of paper, an index card, and just start to do some tally marks. So tally marks for how many dials I did today, tally marks how many people I reached for the first time, how many meetings set, how many sales presentations, and how many bought. It's just a really easy, if you do that for 30 days, you can just do the math and figure how many people I need to talk to in order to set these appointments, etc. So that helps consistency, because all of a sudden you're not emotional about if someone said yes and if they were interested. You get to be, your emotion and your success and your pride is based off of, I completed my 10 dials, or I completed my 30 dials, whatever that specific goal that you have for yourself. And so giving yourself pride in your work stats, that in the part that you can control. So we say there's 3 things you can control. It's your hours, the hours that you work, whatever that hours you decided, your attitude, right? Because that's in your control, is how you're approaching your day, your confidence, and then your demos, or the amount of, calls or meetings you're having. So I think that's a huge part of consistency, playing that game, the numbers game with yourself, so that week in, week out. I'll create trackers for myself. I put up on the wall. And so maybe I have an 8-week goal before I take a trip somewhere. And so I'll want to have maybe, 2 referral coffees to get referrals from people each week. And so I keep track of that. And I want to have 40 dials or 50 dials, and I'll keep track of that. So my trip is my reward. And I've created consistency. I work hard. So in that moment. So I laugh because if people saw my actual stats, like roller coaster, but for me, it's an intentional roller coaster. So I want to work really hard for, 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And then I want to take a 2-week trip. And then I want to work hard for 4 or 5 weeks. And then I want to take a 3-week trip. And so there is a really great, another great book. It was Jack Canfield, I think it was. And he says, it's not that you want to make your business plan and fit your life around it. You want to make your life plan and fit your business around it. And so I kind of take that to heart. So in the overall, yes, I love awards ceremonies and being able to go up and win an award for production. But I always secretly want to be holding around with me also, me on top of Machu Picchu and me at, somewhere else, because those to me are other great successes beyond sales. So I create consistency with the adventures that I like to have in life.
I love
so overall it becomes consistent.
Yeah, and I love the intentional roller coaster. Like, it's going to be crazy, but, I've still got a handle on things, because, we all know startup and sales life is like a roller coaster.
Exactly. And so I love it because I have a coach, and when he looks at my approach, he's like, well, Lauren, last February, this and that. And I was like, that was in Ecuador. Like, that was intentional. And so I think just knowing you and knowing your game. And so not, I guess, obviously, if you want to just work hard like this every single day, never take a break, go for it. But for me, I know my adventures and the travel is like what also gives me life. And so I like to be intentional. So I'm consistently high when I'm working, and then I'm consistently enjoying life when I'm off. So I'm able to
Yeah, know your own game. That's super key. I've just
Yeah.
got one last question for you, and it's kind of personal. I want some advice from you because Mary tells me that you often use business and sales principles to connect with people in your own personal life and maybe overcome conflict. And I love that because they do translate into one another. So you coach people a lot, and sometimes I can imagine that takes getting them into good habits and breaking bad habits. For instance, I was not consistent with my meditation practice, and you really sat down with me and got me to schedule in a set time that was recurring every single day so that I would really stick to that. And, I think that was a pretty straightforward conversation, but what can you tell us about some conversations where you feel resistance? So, if I'm trying to convince friends and family to do something and I'm trying to help them, how can I get through that? How can I kind of use some tactics?
That's a great question. So a big part of it, and this is absolutely how to be a great coach, how to be a great leader. It all
There's
has
a
to do
bit
with
of
listening.
selling in there, I bet too, because you
Yes,
gotta
all
get
of
the
it.
buy-in. Mm-hmm.
We also even laugh because I use sales techniques on my husband. So, and he's, I was like, don't use a closing technique on me. I'm like, so asking questions is huge because you need to have permission to hold someone accountable. And at the same time, even if I think something's a good idea for you to do, like, Rebecca, I think you should meditate. You're like, huh? You might get defensive. And so I think always we call it Socratic coaching. So letting it come from the person. And so I get to say, what, if you could change one thing, what would it be that you want to be held accountable for in your personal life? And you said, I'd love to be able to meditate. It's something I've never been able to be consistent at. And then I can ask a question instead of what I think you should do for meditation. I get to ask, well, how long, how many hours or how many minutes would you want to meditate on a daily basis? And so by always asking and letting them create their own answer, recognizing they have exactly what they want to do, they know what it is inside. We just have to help them adapt, pull it out. So it's like, shining up the diamond, letting it come through. And so questions are key. If I sense conflict, if I sense someone who's a little hesitant, I usually can tie it back to a statement that I've said where I told them what I think they should do before asking. And so I quickly will put a big fat pause and I'll go back and I'll say, for you, ideally, what would you want that to look like? And so once I give permission back to them that they're able to create the new habit or the new goal or the plan for themselves, all of a sudden you'll literally hear that shift in their tone of voice, in their creativity, because all of a sudden they've been able to take ownership of it again. So just recognizing you're there to support and guide them. So this is important if you're leading team members, if you have employees. We tend to try to just tell them what to do instead of really asking them what they think a good solution could be. And it's wild because they're usually in the thick of a certain issue. So they may have a really great solution that if you didn't ask, you wouldn't have heard. And when they feel ownership, you've maybe adopted or integrated a part of their plan, they're going to be more loyal to you. That was something I was so grateful for, just how we had low turnover with employees. We have employees that are still great friends of ours because you treat them like whole people rather than just like their employees. And then in relationships, same thing. I have a twin sister, and she was so funny because after I'd been coaching for a few years, she came back to visit. She goes, "Oh my gosh, you're such a good listener." And I was like, She's like, "I can't believe it." And so just that intentionality of not cutting people off, not trying to finish someone's sentence or assume the story they're trying to tell you or the point they're trying to make. Instead, be quiet. And it's wild because if you're quiet, you don't respond with the like, "Oh, I totally know what you mean," or you kind of just cut them off. If you're just quiet, they'll keep talking. They're able to get a deeper part of it out. And so you really allow someone to kind of get to a deeper level of maybe a concern or a story they're telling you when we don't cut them off. And so you can use nonverbals of like,
Yes.
whoa, right? So you can use nonverbals to help people keep talking, but it's really important to let them talk. So I say it's kind of like you got a towel, you fold your towel, it's like a wet towel, you're gonna squeeze it out, and you're gonna fold it again and squeeze it out again. There's usually more under the surface if we just ask. But if we cut them off and we give our opinion, like, "Well, I think you need to, get, 5 versions of my product, and we just move into selling someone. We're not letting them buy. We don't let them feel authentic. And same thing with coaching people. We don't let them have ownership of their solution to their problem if we just come in all high and mighty. So I think it's better for us to support people, let them get it all out, and then we hold them accountable to whatever it is that they wanted to do. So it's all about them. It's not about us.
I think that's what I've like come to love a lot about sales, is that I've learned so much about human nature. And I think, every time I learn something new and I get better at sales, it actually makes me a better person. As crazy as it kind of sounds, because, traditionally sales can be thought of as, those people that you don't trust that are trying to get something out of you. But the best salespeople in the world, they're driven from wanting to serve their customers in their best interests. So on that note, Lauren, it's been so great having you today. Tell everyone where they can connect with you and find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, my email address is llaforge at southwesternconsulting.com. And I laugh because I'm a little bit of a nerd in social media. So I do have a business Facebook page, but I'll need coaching on how to better use it. So you can find me on Facebook.
We'll link all that stuff down below.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks for having me.